All right, so most of today will be a work day. I just want to go over another technique for animating these things, just so you can see, again, just another way that you could animate this first one. Just to remind you, we'll be doing 3 text animators. The first one, we're going to be animating everything by hand. The second one, we'll be working with more of an automated method. And then the third one, we'll be doing a stroke right-on technique, okay? So starting it from the very beginning of this, I'm going to go into Illustrator. I make it 960 by 540. I make sure it's RGB. And then I also turn off, once the more settings come up, I turn off this transparency grid. And then close. There we go. If you forget to turn off the transparency grid under View, under one of these options, you'll find it in there. It's right there. All right. So I type out my words. Remember, each one's going to be a separate layer. Keep in mind the text that you use, the fonts, the capitals, spell check, obviously all that stuff comes into play. There we go. In this case, I'm going to lay out the stuff. This is going to be a 3D one, so I don't need to do any special layouts inside of here. Find a nice, like, chunky font. No. Yeah, I guess I can use that one. I like that one better. All right. And then I'm going to make this bigger. All the stuff we can adjust inside of After Effects too, so it's not like we can't resize stuff in After Effects. We just won't be able to like change the type, okay, or the font or any of that. Let's make sure this is in the right order. From the other side, there we go. And then I go over here to my layers. I say, oops, click on that layer, release to layer sequence. This time it worked. Last time, for whatever reason, it didn't work. Okay. Now, it says layer 1, layer 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. Those are not layers. They're groups inside of that. So I have to actually take these out, and now they're layers on their own. Okay. And you'll realize that when you go into After Effects and they're not layers, it'll obviously show you only have one layer. Also, the word hello, I actually want to split because I want to do 2 phrases here. So I'm going to animate even the word hello as 2 separate phrases. So I will also take that one and sequence it, drag them out, delete layer 6, and then type in what each one is. If you put them in order, bless you, it makes life a little bit easier. Nope, they're no longer in groups. It's just that's the layer, and then there's the text. Bless you. Okay. From the other side. Okay. And then just for better usage of space, I'll just make this bigger. There we go. All right, so I'm going to throw that into my 1900 text artwork. Hello. Okay, so now when I go into After Effects for my second one, let me just organize this a little bit better. That goes there, and then that's fine in there for now. Actually, I'll go here and put this in artwork. So I'm just going to import. I will find my artwork, find my hello, there it is. Make sure that this is set to composition retain layer sizes. And then when I double click this, it opens up just like it was inside of Illustrator. There we go. So that's what it looked like inside Illustrator. Where's my text at though? Black on black, right. So I could obviously go back into here, change the color of the text, save it, it'll update. Or I could just go to my comp settings and change the background color. For this, I'll just do that. There it is. All right, so now I'm going to start laying this out like I want this to be displayed. So the way that I'm going to do this is it's going to be 3D, because that's what one of the things I wanted to show today was how we can do stuff as 3D. So it's going to say hello from the, and then it'll spin around and say other side. So it's like steps, I guess. Okay, so I'm going to make everything 3D. So everything is 3D now. I'm going to ignore other side for a second and just focus on hello from the. And I'm just going to lay these out. So I'm just going to put this here, put this here, put that there. Now that needs to go a little bit closer. Make sure it's level. Yep, okay. Now what I want to do is I want to rotate the word from so that if this is like the front of a step, the word from is like the actual step you would step on, but maybe at a little bit of an angle so we can see it better, okay? So if I go to the rotates, I now, because it's 3D, have an X, Y, and Z rotation. So I can take any one of these and just rotate it, and it'll rotate it in 3D, okay? So if I want this to be like from the top of this, I'm going to take the pivot. So I just hit Y to get to the pivot tool, and I'm just dragging this arrow straight up. So in this case, I don't grab all of these, I just grab the arrow and drag it up to the top of that. Hit Y again, and now as I rotate this, you'll see how it like pivots right from that spot. Like a swing, right. And then I'll do the same thing with the word the. I'll put the pivot at the top of it. And then I'll switch back to my move tool, and I'll move it up like that. And then I'm going to scale all my stuff because I want it to fit better. So, and then from, I'll scale this because I want from to fit the same width as hello. And same thing there. Now right away you can kind of see something that's happening to my text. Do you see how it's looking all pixelated? Yeah. So as I've scaled up this vector art, it needs to know, hey, this is vector art. So that's where we can use that continuously rasterize button, and it'll clear it up. Now I'm zoomed in, so it's not going to be crystal clear, but there we go. So here it is before, kind of ugly, and then there it's a bit crisper. Cool. All right, so that's good there. Now what I want to do is I want to rotate this entire thing around and put other side on the back of this, okay? So I'm going to, I could grab each one individually and try rotating each piece individually, but that's going to be a lot trickier to sync all of those pieces up together. So that's where a null comes in, because with a null, we can take this item, and just like I showed when we were talking about parenting, I could parent all the items to that null, and that way as I rotate, everything rotates together, okay? Kind of think of like it as a group. So I first put this where I want this to be, center-wise. I can adjust it later if I need to. I'm going to make it 3D, and then I'm going to parent all the pieces to the null. Now if I go here to rotate, and I go to my Y rotation, you can see how I can rotate that entire thing, and then obviously the word the is too far back, right? So I'll go to, let's say here, switch to the word the, there we go, and then scoot that forward, rotate this back, and then just verify, yep, that looks good. Cool, all right. So that will work good. Let me rotate this around. What if I want to rotate it around half of a circle? How many degrees? 180, thank you. So now it's 180 degrees rotated. If I go to other and side, they're backwards. Obviously, those need to be re-rotated back the other way, so I will rotate those 180 back the other way. Okay, and then other will be up here. never stretch out your text. That's just one of the things you never want to do, even in regular layout. You never stretch out your text. Now we can already see the issue that we're going to have, right? Which is what? What's that? You can't read it, right? So what's some solutions that I could come up with for this? Different color text would be one. Okay, so we can try that. I'm going to go to my position for other and side, and I can do this at the same time, and I just need to push that back some so they're not right on top of it. And then rotate it back here. Okay, what if I also just put a solid back there? Right? So, yeah, so if I just had whatever color my background is going to be, let's say my background is blue, that solid would also be blue. That way as it spins around, it looks like it just disappears, and then other side would just pop in, right? So we'll try that. So I'll make a new layer, new solid, like so. I'll just eyedrop the background color. I don't know why it's eyedropping black, whatever. We'll get the exact color in a second. There we go. I'm going to re-rotate my null back to 0. Anytime I do parenting, I want to make sure everything is reset back to 0. That way it parents all in the same spot. Then I'm going to go back to my solid, parent it to the null. And then as this rotates around, we don't see anything. All right, why don't we see anything? Oh, the solid is not 3D. I thought I clicked that. There we go. There you go. So from the other side. So now all I have to do is just slide this over so that, oops, slide my solid over. So it's actually behind it. And then let's pick the right colors for our background. So this one will be, let's say, that blue. I'll desaturate it. I'll darken it some. And then I can just copy that number, go to my light gray solid, paste that number, and then now as I switch from one to the other, you'll see how it moves around. Cool. Okay. So that looks like it's laid out pretty good. So now it's just a matter of now animating how each one of these pieces is going to come into the screen. So I'm going to hide my null for a second. I'm going to hide that. I'm going to hide this. Let's say the word hello. What do we want to do with this? I'm just going to scale it up. Okay, and I'll just, whatever I do for one, I'm going to pretty much do for all of them. I don't want it to be like a different thing for each one, unless it makes sense, okay? So if I do hello from the other side, one of them scales, they're all going to scale. I wouldn't scale one, move one in, rotate one in, do a mask. That's like too much stuff going on. Too busy, right. So I'm going to take this, move my pivot down to the corner, do the same thing for this. I'll move this pivot to that corner though, so that way they go together. And then from, that pivot is back there, that's fine. And then thus is right. Move that to about there. Okay. So let's see how that goes. So I'm just going to go to my scale for this. Obviously if I had the audio, I could use the audio to sync it up. But in this case, I'm not going to use the audio. This is 15 seconds, 30 seconds. This is like a minute and a half or 2 minutes. I don't need all of this. So I need to be aware of my timing down here. Let's shrink this in some. There we go. All right, so let's say 15 frames. That pops up. Now, if I have a keyframe set up, so I'm going to right-click and do my easy ease. I'm going to go into here. I'm going to push this that way. There we go. I'm going to squeeze it in just a little bit more. Cool. So if I have my keyframe set up for one thing, and I'm going to be animating the other stuff the same exact way, something like scale, I can pretty much just grab all of these, rewind it, and paste, and they'll all have the exact same scale keyframes. So now at the same time, they all scale up. Okay, so now it's just a matter of offsetting all of them. So I say hello, so I can go there. Oops. Let me offset all these other ones out of the way so they don't bother me. There we go. Cool. Bring that in. Oops. And then I forgot that the word from, we scaled up bigger than it was, so I have to go back to this and then make that bigger. And the same thing with the word the. We made that bigger than it originally was, so I have to scale that up a bit bigger. And I think also maybe nudge it over a little bit. There we go. Now if my font were to change inside of Illustrator, that would screw up the whole layout. So you really want to make sure that whatever font you've chosen, you kind of stick with that. And I think probably down a little bit too. There we go. Just looking at the spacing here, spacing there. Okay. Okay. Now when the word the pops in, that's when I'm going to go to my rotate and rotate the Y direction. If you don't know which way you're going to rotate, you just do one, see if that's the right way. If it's not, then you do something else. Switch this to 180. Easy ease. Let's see if that works. Make this bigger. You want to pull that back a little bit, pull this back a little bit. That works. Okay, and then I would go back and make sure that where it's appropriate or where I need to, I have these things on. I have my motion blur on. And I actually think maybe other should be 2. It seems like there's too much of a delay. So here's a quick way that I can get both of those in there. I just duplicate the one. I go to my mask tool, and I just draw a mask around one of those. So this is going to be there, and then this one will be O. So now it's going to look the same because I'm going to then take this one and rename it just by typing in there, O, and then offsetting it. And then I also may want to, let's say, animate this so that it's a little bit more centered. Because if you look at where I animated this, I was zoomed in. And so now everything is like up in that top corner, so it looks stupid. That's what's cool about that null, is that if I just go to the position of the null, I can move it down. I can scale it. And everything updates. So I don't have to worry about, manually moving everything into position. So there's my text animation. Now don't stop there. Once you get your text animation, then go in and make it look nice, okay? Like I've said before, I'm going to duplicate this. Vignettes make things look really fancy. Okay, so I'm going to go here, right there. I'm going to go, I drug my hello to a new composition, duplicate it so I have two, and then I'm just going to take the top one and make it a multiply, and then just use my ellipse tool to draw a mask. And then if I open up the mask, I can invert it, which is right there, and then I can feather it, which is right there, and then I can expand it, which is there. I can also add a new solid. I'll make this white. And I'll add a little bit of noise to this. Set that to final, set this intensity up. Yeah, I'll change my solid colors to black. There we go. That's the color I wanted. And now I'll take the intensity down some. I'll take the size down some. I will take the color and make it monochromatic so it's black and white. I will take one of these, range monochromatic application. There we go. I'll take the softness up, that way I get like bigger chunks in there. And then if I just change this to, let's say, add, it'll add on top of that. Now I may not want it to be that strong, so then I can just go to the opacity of that layer and just knock the opacity down. And what you'll see is we get these nice little bits of noise in there. And then we also want to make sure animation is off. That's on by default. Okay, and I also may want to go into my adjustment layer and go to my color correction, hue and saturation. And then if I colorize it, you can see how very quickly I can change the color. Instead of blue, now it's this color, and all my stuff will update. So as it spins around, come on, it will update. Now look at the background. You can see that the background doesn't update because the background is still that blue color. So what will we do for that? Let's go back to our original hello. Let's go to that medium solid, and let's scale this up to a crazy amount. This is 3,200, so let's take it 50,000. Still not there. That's better. Okay, so that works. Well, maybe it doesn't work. Maybe instead of making it huge, I make it small enough so that it just fits. Scale this down like that. And that might be a little bit more effective, just having it fit exactly. So now when this comes in, there we go. So that works. And then, let's see, maybe I want this. Let me just give it a different color so it's obviously different from the background. I'm going to take all the animation and just offset it a few frames. And then I'll take this and just animate the scale of it. So it starts there, goes there. That's really long. Oh yeah. There we go. And now in here we get the same effect. And then again, we can play with that adjustment layer to control which color we want that to be. The black's not going to change color because black is not going to colorize. Not until I add lightness to this. Then it'll add color into it. So if I want to change the color, I go here, grab all of these, give this some sort of color. Let's say that blue. Save it, and now we get that. And that beginning thing is still too slow. Let's bring that in some more. There we go. And then maybe we'll take other inside and maybe rotate them to so put the pivots up here. I can grab both at the same time, and I can go to rotate and rotate them in the X direction like that. And then go to side, rotate that, and then just change their position a bit. Oops, don't go through the plane. There we go. Okay, now I go to the end of this. Notice how it starts off with nothing, just like we started off with other ones. It animates in, and then this is the actual end of my title. So I'm just going to set the end of my work area, cut it. I'll also go into the word hello and do the same thing. Set the end of my work area, cut it, and that's it. I want to leave a little bit of room at the end. Okay, so the actual end frame is like here, but I have all this other stuff there. That's where we'll have one of our page transitions come in and transition to the next piece. Okay, so make sure you have a little bit of a bumper on the end of these. The beginning should start off empty, the text comes in and does its thing, and then at the end we'll have a transition that goes out. Okay, cool. Questions on any of that stuff? Yes, sir. Every element that you animate has to be a separate layer. Yes. If you had anything like on yours, you have that car. So on the car, you have the car itself, you have the thruster body. Those two things could be as one element, but then the fire you want to animate separately, so that will be a separate element. Right. Okay. Anything else? Okay.